Headers on. I don't know if I'm ready for this. I think it's time we upgrade this, you guys. What do you say? What's up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. And yes, that's right. You heard correctly. We're finally upgrading the old restrictive exhaust manifold for the new free-flowing 4-to-1 header. Yes! Woo-woo! We've got a big project ahead of us, so let's get started. I've got just about everything I need laid out right here on my new workbenches, and I have to say, my garage is finally starting to come together to look the way I want, somewhat. And I'm still a little bit messy, but I now installed 2 makeshift floating and foldable work tables out of MDF board, and they're holding up together pretty well. But before we get started with the header project, I want to thank you all again for supporting this channel. This right here is a true underdog story to turn this ordinary car into something exciting, and I've got huge plans to do just that. Now, a lot of you actually watch my videos but still haven't subscribed yet, so I'm hoping you can at least do me that favor and help a brother out. Hit that subscribe button below. I'm working out getting more content for you guys on a regular basis, and for those of you who are already subscribed, you guys are the real MVPs, so thank you. So don't forget to hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more. Now back to the build. Now, in my last video, we did the big 3 upgrade, and I promised you 2 things. One was going to be boosting the performance of the alternator, and the second one was going to be more horsepower gains. And I feel like I've got all the pieces here ready to go. Now, this is going to be an in-depth project to show you guys each step I take to get this installed and gain that extra 10 plus horsepower I mentioned to you guys before. It's probably going to take me a couple of days to finish this, so it may be a little bit longer than the usual video. But to help you guys out, I'll break this up into chapters. That way you can focus on only the parts that you need answers to. So you're welcome. So if we take a look right here, we have a 4-port 4-to-1 header by OBX Racing. And I've had this thing for quite some time and I'm just not able to get to it. This actually wasn't an easy thing to find. So for those of you wondering where I found this, I got this off of Amazon just by chance. It seems to be a compatible one that'll fit the engine. I will leave a link in the description to send you guys to it, but it says they're out of stock, so that sucks. But it comes in 2 parts. You can see right here it's split into the 4-port header and this 2-port piping right here, so it'll fit just like this in the back of the engine. And it's also got the flex pipe installed too, so that's good. Now, the existing manifold header that's on the car right now is a header / catalytic converter combo, so it has 2 O2 sensor ports. But since this header replaces that and it doesn't have the built-in cat, which we're not going to use, it only has 1 O2 sensor port right here, meaning that we have to fabricate a new port behind the second cat, which is under the car just before the resonator. And we're going to be using these ports right here. So I've got 4 separate plugs, 4 different plugs, and one of these will fit the piping. And I'll need to weld this on, drill a hole and weld this on, and then screw in the O2 sensor. And in order to do that, we then have to extend the O2 sensor wires by soldering on extensions so they'll reach the ECU plugins. And then we have to install the defoulers on the downstream sensor so that we can avoid the check engine lights. Now, this all may sound complicated, but it'll start to make sense once you see me doing it, and I'll try to go step by step so I can show you guys exactly what it is that I'm doing. We're also going to wrap the new headers in this heat shielding tape, which will help insulate the heat within the headers, because the more heat that's contained within the header, the higher the exhaust flow. That way we'll be able to achieve that elusive 20 plus horsepower gain I was telling you guys about earlier. Now, after we get this wrapped up, we'll then remove both upstream and downstream O2 sensors and get those extended. We're going to be using this O2 sensor socket to actually get them unplugged. And I tried to find actual O2 sensor extensions that are plug and play for my car, but I can't find any. So we'll just use the same gauge copper wire to lengthen them and then wrap them in extra heat shielding tape that I have and then get those reinstalled. And then pray there's no check engine light. Now, after we're done installing the new header, we should be able to get a better drive out of this ride and might even be able to feel that extra 30 horsepower I was telling you guys about earlier before. We might even hear a different note change in the exhaust sounds too. I don't know what that's going to sound like. It might not change at all, but I'm kind of interested to see what that's going to do. So I've already said what it seems like to be a mouthful. It looks like we've got our work cut out for us, Rick. The first thing we're going to do is start wrapping the headers in this heat shielding and get these ready for the install. Now, this stuff is full of fiberglass fibers, so we're going to need protection. Rubber gloves, long sleeves, because I don't want any of this stuff getting on my skin and I'll be itching for days. So now I'm going to get the protection on, get prepped and ready to go, and then we'll get started. All right, so I got my rubber gloves on, got my sleeves. I just put on a light jacket because it's the only thing that I have that pretty much would seal up everything. So now we're ready to get started, and the instructions here say to wear a mask, wear long sleeves, gloves, blah blah blah. It says to soak it in water before installing. I don't know how long you're supposed to soak this thing, but I've had it soaking for, I don't know, probably about 15-20 minutes now, so it should be good. And this is gonna make a damn mess. I got 2 rolls of this stuff here, so if I run out of the first roll, once I start using the first roll, I'll just throw the second one into the water. I probably should have set this up to drain before I started recording. That should do it. All right, good enough. We're going to start wrapping the beginning of this in one full rotation, and then we'll start overlapping 50% of the width of the material. That way we'll get complete coverage and insulation onto the pipes here. I don't know how much of this I need right off the bat, so I'll just unravel a good amount and then start wrapping it. Now the trick is to try to make this as tight as possible. I don't have a long pipe here, so I'm just going to cut it right here. I got plenty of this stuff. I'm trying not to flop this around so much in the air because I don't want to chance any fibers flying around. Starting to get a good wrap on it now. Alright, so that's one port done. I'm going to take care of the other 3. We should be good with the top part. And those of you who are wondering, yes, I decided to put on a mask just in case. Alright, I'm almost done with this, so it doesn't look like I'll need that second roll, which is good. This stuff is not that easy to work with. It's mainly just trying to sneak it through the headers here. That's the problem. and try not to get it to flop all over the place.
Guys, guess what? That video I posted the other day.
Careful, careful.
Sorry.
What's up?
That video I posted the other day, I almost got 200 views.
Nice.
Yeah. People are saying, I got 8 comments on it too.
Nice job.
Yeah.
Keep it going. Now I got the top part of the header wrapped, and I have to say, not bad for my first time. Now I'm just going to tighten this up a little bit more with some more of those metal zip ties. And then I'll wrap the second piece. And this portion should be done. Right. And that is how you properly wrap exhaust pipes. And thank God too, because they weren't kidding. This stuff really does itch. I've even got the back of my leg itching, which I don't even know how that's possible. But now that we got this portion done, we can move on to the next phase, which is removing the 2 O2 sensors off the car. Here's another piece of the puzzle that's a real pain in the ass. See this lip right here? I can't get my O2 sensor socket around this lip. It won't fit down in there. So what I'm gonna do is get my Dremel, cut 2 slits on each side here, just so I could flare this open a little bit, and then I'll be able to fit my socket right on top, unscrew the sensor, and then I'll just close it back up and reseal it. Now, I'm pretty sure using a Dremel is not the most recommended way to get this open so I can get this socket onto here. I'm pretty sure there is a much better way of doing that, but that's the only way that I know how to actually flare this open a little bit more, just so I can get this socket on. So don't follow that. If you guys know of a better way of getting this done, please do that. Don't do it this way, what I just did, because I don't want you guys ruin your O2 sensor. But if you do have to do it that way, please be careful. Alright, so I went to the shop, got a better socket. This one seemed to work a lot better. Got the O2 sensor off finally. Now I can take the heat shielding off and start unscrewing the header. Well, I can see the downstream sensor right there. So I'm going to reach behind and see if I can take that off without taking the header off first. So that way I can just work on the wires. Yeah, that's on there. I'm gonna have to get the header off to get this one off.
It's getting serious on this track, man.
Thought I'd take another crack at it. Here's the downstream sensor right there. Just trying to get that bad boy off. Alright, so that's really stuck on there. I'm gonna have to get that manifold off. Hey, what's up guys? It's day 2 of the project and I am really having a hard time getting off that sensor right down there. It will not budge at all. I was able to take off the heat shield off the exhaust manifold, but that was really simple. That sucker right there is really on there. So what I'm going to attempt to do is try to take off the exhaust manifold. I'm at a pretty bad angle because unfortunately my exhaust manifold is at the back of the engine. I went and got myself this mirror, so now I can actually see where the screws are. There's one right there. There's the second one underneath. There's a third one right there. There's the fourth one. There's 7 screws on this thing. There's 3 up top and 4 underneath. And then I'll need to lift up the car and get that hanger off. If I can get this manifold off, bring it into the shop, and I'll be able to heat torch O2 sensor right there, and I should be able to get that off once it's inside the shop. And now with a lot of elbow grease, patience, and dedication, I was able to get all 7 of the nuts off, and actually the bolt actually came off of this one, but not a big deal. We just screw that back on. But now we're ready to lift the car up, get underneath, and unbolt her from the rest of the mid pipe. And then we should be able to pull the header straight out. Yeah, look at that. Here up under the car to remove the exhaust manifold, and lo and behold, there are 2 more bolts that are attaching the catalytic converter to the engine. There's one right there, and the other one is right there behind that annoying bracket. I gotta find out what size they are. Look at that hair.
Gorgeous!
Nice.
It better be.
It's beautiful.
It was worth $125.
Oh my God!
That's it.
I'm gonna see if I can remove this flex pipe, and that should provide me the clearance that I need to reach behind this brace here so I can reach those 2 bolts. But this flex pipe right here, these bolts are completely rusted over. So I don't know if I'll be able to get these off. I got a feeling this is not gonna be an easy part to do. Really not looking forward to doing this one. But I was able to get the mid pipe off with the cat, and I just actually took that completely off with the resonator because I need to reinstall the new port for the downstream sensor. That's going to sit right over here, so I need to lengthen the downstream sensor and install the defoulers onto that pipe. So, and by the grace and patience of the Lord, I was finally able to get this exhaust out of this engine. I don't know how I did it. I couldn't even tell you how I did it. Jeez, this took a long time to do, and I finally got it set up over here. Thank you, Lord, for giving me the strength to get this done. I've got the exhaust manifold over here. If we take a look, I'll do a side-by-side comparison. Here's the old one.
Old and busted.
And here's the new one right here.
New hotness.
And we can see the new one is a little bit smaller. I mean, relative size is not that much smaller, but it is just a little bit lighter because I don't have the catalytic converter on here. But if we take a look at the manufacturing of this thing, we can see that just this cast iron piece is extremely heavy. Look at the bottleneck that it causes. All of it comes down and collects right here, creates severe limitations for the exhaust flow. So we're going to get rid of this, replace it with this one. Creates significant exhaust flow, greatly improves the engine performance. You can see right here, each tube has its own flow. So we're going to come down here to these 2 pipes to this collector right here and out the back. So now I was finally able to get the top O2 string, the upstream O2 sensor off. I couldn't get the bottom one off. This one is seized on here pretty good, so I got to work some heat treatment, spray it down with some PB Blaster, let that sit for a while, see if I can muscle that bad boy out without breaking it, because I really don't want to get a new one. Upstream O2 sensor, which was up top here, is now going to go on this side. So I don't know if I'll need to extend the wires. I might need to anyway, but this one is definitely going to need to be extended because there's no place over here for the downstream sensor, which goes after the cat. This one is going to go after the second cat that's underneath the car. So I'm going to drill a new hole right about here on this side or on that side. I haven't figured out which way yet. And I'm going to weld on one of these O2 sensor bungs right here. And it's either going to sit on this side or over here. I haven't really figured out yet what I'm going to do. But once that gets welded onto there, then I'll be able to install the downstream sensor into this section. So I just wanted to take a little bit of time to show you guys and do a quick comparison of the old versus the new. So if you guys decide to do this yourselves, you'll see what type of problems you had to run into as well. This took a long time to get off, and I couldn't get this out of the engine bay with this bracket up here. And I tried to take off that bolt, but it's rusted shut up here, completely sealed. There was no way I could get that off. So I just had to cut it with an angle grinder and just muscle my way through it and just finally peel this bad boy out of there. So that took 2 days to do. Now that it's off, we gotta muscle this guy up out of there. So we still have more work to do. I'm gonna do my best to get that downstream O2 sensor off so I can bring it into the shop, and then we'll start extending the wires. So let's head on over to the table and we'll start cutting and soldering. I'm also on the prowl to look for some new wheels here to upgrade these, because I've had these for 3 going on 4 years now, and it's severely overdue for an upgrade. So I did find a pair. I'm checking out the Fitment Industries site, and I found a nice set that I'm eyeing on. So as soon as I get a chance, as soon as I get some more money, that'll be the next upgrade. Okay, so now that I have the second O2 sensor out, which took a little bit more effort than the first one, I had to do a combination of PB Blaster, my Blue Fire torch, and my impact drill to finally get this thing off, but now we're able to extend it. This is a last resort method because this method requires you to actually sever the wires and solder extensions. So if you've never soldered before, I highly recommend you learning that skill first and get some practice in before doing this. Additionally, if you can find plug-in extensions, then you might want to try that first. Otherwise, once you start cutting, you're committed. But fear not. If you mess up, then just go to rockauto.com and buy a new one that fits your ride. By no way means they're sponsoring this, so I just like the website because I can find exactly what it is that I need, and I get the parts in a timely fashion at a reasonable price too. So now a new one will run you anywhere from like $40 to just over $100, so it's really not that bad. Unfortunately, I couldn't find the right plug-in extension for these, and I wasn't comfortable with getting some 1-star reviewed off of eBay or anything like that, so I'm just going to solder on extensions. You want to find the same size wire as close you can, and this right here is 16 gauge wire, so it's probably about 16 or 18 gauge wire that's within here. Also, the new location for this downstream sensor will now be under the car, just behind the second cat, and I already pre-measured that I'll need an additional 3 feet of wire, so we should be fine with that. If we pull back the sheathing, you'll see 4 separate wires, and since I'm going to need 3 feet of wire added to each wire, so that's, if I do the math, times 4, at least 12 feet of wire. Yeah, that's it. Once again, these seem to be about 16 or 18 gauge wire, so that's what I have right here. And it doesn't really matter the color, just as long as you're soldering the correct wires. So as long as you know which wire you're connecting, you should be fine. To ensure that we're going to splice the right wires, we're going to fully connect each one at a time. We're also going to be cutting at different lengths, so we can keep the whole cord as thin as possible. That way there's no huge bulge in one area due to all the solder. So when all 4 wires are done and soldered, and we got a nice extension going on here, so this one is about 18 inches, additional 3 feet, so this will be close to about 4.5 feet, which is the length that I'm going to need. We'll wrap this up in heat shielding tape, and then we'll get ready for the next phase, which is drilling a new port behind the second cat just before the resonator for this bung, and then we'll start to weld on this bung. Then we got to install the non-fouler, which is going to go inside here, and this will go inside the bung, and then we can install it onto the car. You know, just to be on the safe side, I'm going to cut an extra foot of wire. I'm going to add an extra foot of wire to this. Instead of 3 feet, I'm going to do 4 feet. Okay, so now this is done, and this sensor has now turned from a 1.5 foot sensor to a near 5 foot long sensor. So now everything done correctly, and I'm pretty sure I did everything correctly. So now this shouldn't cause any issues, hopefully. So now that this part is done, now we can move on to installing in the new bung. Now that we have this sensor extended, we're ready to move on to the next phase of the project, which is getting this installed onto the mid pipe. We got to make some modifications to do that first. So we're going to connect 2 non-foulers to the end of the sensor and then drill a hole into the mid pipe and weld on the new bung. Using non-foulers is a trick that I researched that allegedly is a fix to the cat deficiency codes that would trick the engine ECU into thinking everything is working fine, and then the check engine light should go away. Now this doesn't naturally fit into the non-fouler, so we got to drill a 1/2 inch hole into one of them and then screw it on. So I've got my 1/2 inch drill bit right here, and we're just going to drill all the way through so that the sensor will fit through, and then we'll screw this one on top of it, and then this will fit into the bung. So in short, it should look something like this. So I'm going to move this over to my clamp and start drilling a hole through the first one. Alright, so now I got the hole drilled, and this will fit just fine. Cool. So now I'm going to throw a little bit of anti-seize on the threads, and this part's ready to go. Alright, so I got a bung welded up on here, and take a look at this. This is probably the best you're going to see any type of welding on this channel. I'm not the best, I'm still learning it, but hey, these shitty welds, all it needs to do is just hold in place, and that's what it's doing. Right there. Thank you. You know, I'll take it right here.
Want a hand?
Oh, we're good. I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Be careful, my friend.
Appreciate it. All right, guys, headers on. And now time for the initial startup. Yeah, it looks pretty good down up in there. All right, I don't know if I'm ready for this. Let's do this. That's self-alarms. I think I just set someone's car alarm down there. Woo, woo. Woo, it's running. It's running. And no check engine light. Nice. Woo. Oh my gosh.
Always do it on my own, so I gotta keep going. And the only thing I know is to love what I'm doing.
That sounds beautiful.
Slow till I finally prove it. Never listen to the words, I just wanna keep moving. Keep my head up when I act. Get up, that's a fact. Keep it up, gotta keep myself on track. Keep my head up, staying.
I gotta call my mama. Hold on. Now it's time to give you guys what y'all been asking for this whole time. Alright, so it sounds almost straight piped, but I still have the cat on. Other than that, it sounds good. Oh, no. Looks like I got the check engine light. Oh well. Alright, let's hear what you got. It definitely is a little quicker. Is that a backfire? Dude, I think I got some mini pops. That's cool. Never had that before. I think I might have achieved that elusive 50 horsepower I was telling you guys about before. I don't know how much horsepower I have. I honestly don't. It's definitely a lot louder. Definitely a lot louder. The headers actually changed the note. And I think I can get used to it. But you guys, I want to thank you if you stuck through this entire video to this point. I really do appreciate you. And if you haven't, if you just click the link and jump right to the sound clips, thanks for watching the video. I thank you nonetheless. So thanks again for supporting me and watching this video. But you know what, I'm gonna keep driving for a little bit longer, but that's it right here, guys. I'm gonna leave it right here for you. I'll end it with some beautiful sound clips, and I hope you guys enjoyed as much as I do, because I had a lot of fun on this project, on this build. This is probably, I keep saying this, but this is probably one of the hardest things I've ever done, if not the hardest thing I've done, at least by myself. Last time I did this, I had help. I didn't have any help this time, so it's just all me. But you guys, thank you for watching. As always, be true to yourself. Love what you do what you love. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.